Hi, loves. Welcome to a new episode of AW Confidential. Today's guest held on to an emotional and painful secret for 20 years. But instead of letting what happened to her poison her, she opted for resilience and turned tragedy into comedy. Her TEDx talk, Muerta de risa, no muerta, and for my community who doesn't speak Spanish, that that translates into dead laughing, not dead. It's not this. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't sort of have the same connotation as it would in Spanish, but it is her account of her own story of Secuestro Express, which references a 2005 Venezuelan crime film that follows the kidnapping of a young girl and boyfriend in Caracas, Venezuela. Emma Ramos was born and raised in Culiacán, Sinaloa, Mexico. The actress has acting credits that include recurring roles on hit television dramas like New Amsterdam, one of our favorites, Law and Order SUV, The Endgame, and Unforgettable. You can also see her in the upcoming feature film In the Summers opposite René Pérez Joglar to premiere at Sundance Film Festival. The actress is also a writer for Nickelodeon's Dora. She draws from personal experiences to bring out her characters' emotional truths. Emma, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Viv. So great to hear you.
Ah, the same. And congratulations on all the beautiful work that you're doing. You're just so gifted. And I, you know, I watched your TEDx talk. You're a powerful actress. It's sort of when you are in a role, it's almost like you're immersed, like you I believe what you're saying, what you're feeling. And when I watched the TEDx talk, where you told your story about your traumatic event, I almost and I'm not sure I'm phrasing this right, but I almost didn't connect with the pain. I actually connected with your experience and the positive sort of thing that happened after the experience. So it's not that I didn't connect with the trauma, but I connected more with what you did with that pain. And I want to go back a little bit and ask for anyone who has not heard the story, can you sort of describe what happened to you that night that I'm referring to and that you so openly and vulnerably talked about on your TEDx talk?
Of course. So you mentioned Secuestro Express, which the translation would be Express Kidnap, which in Mexico City, or I'm not sure if another other countries, I think Venezuela too. But this situation happened in Mexico City to me. And Express Kidnap is basically, two kidnappers. Usually they are connected to this whole group of, in this case, like taxi drivers in Mexico, and they pick you up. You haul a cab and they pick you up, and then the kidnap starts happening. At that time, it was a government changing in Mexico. The president, and when someone is elected, there's kind of that period where is even more dangerous because the heads of every department are changing. Um, and I've always been back at that time where I experienced that express kidnap. I was not an actress. I was not a US citizen. I was a Mexican girl coming out of college, and very excited about, being this, trying to be this older person in the executive world, and busy, 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 busy. So I was just thinking that I was, at the head of my game. And I say that because I think that is connected to who I am. right now a bit more conscious, or what is that superpower of being very, very present and able to communicate to your surroundings. So briefly, the express kidnap, what it means is a group of kidnappers. In this case, it was the cab driver and two more people. They pick you up, and the moment that you're entering the cab, you know, the other kidnappers come into the cab, and they have guns, and they put guns next to your rib cage or whatever, and the whole situation starts where they have to take control of the situation, have to take control of your nervous system, basically, because as they are moving around in the city, they're trying to subdue all the things that are happening inside to get their goal. In that case, is taking everything, all the valuables from my purse. And because I am a young woman, and I was younger at the time, in the case of women, these situations are led by males, and the whole conversation is about, like, if you don't cooperate, you will, you know, will rape you and murder you. And I'm not sure if this is the right time to say these words, because sometimes that it's very jarring to say the word, and I sometimes have to change it to abuse, but that's the reality. So immediately your mind is in panic, in shock. I also learned that these kinds of no matter how much detail I put into this conversation with you, I think it all happens, like, time kind of moves at a different pace when that situation happens, because the body, everything inside your heart, your soul, your body, your mind, there's a lot of internal communication where you don't know that it's actually happening, so there's a delay in your reaction. And so they take your credit card, business card, whatever you have, and the driver goes to the different ATMs to take off, like, you know, to take the money that they can. And then they usually, the horrible thing happens. I'm not saying that anybody taking away your money is not horrible, but that you're alive. But the situation here with certain kidnappers is that if they're in a bad mood and you're not cooperating, there are stories of women that at that time they were being, you know, after that happened, they were being abused and then murdered. So that's, you know, that's the hard part. Like, now everybody can unclench their jaws with me. The people that are listening, because that's kind of like the synopsis of the most horrible thing that I'm going to say, like, kind of yeah, the scanning of it all, you know. But turning it upside down and making this connecting it to my superpower, and hopefully anybody that is going through something similar, that maybe I can help connect the dots if possible. I believe in my gut that you can save yourself from any situation if you really, 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 really listen and stay in the moment. And I learned that I saved myself by making my demons laugh. You know, so I think during the time where I was in the cab with these people, that if I was writing the story, they would be the antagonist of the story, right? You have the female victim and you have the three male antagonists, and that is one layer of the story. And usually when you're pitching, now that you mentioned that I write, when you pitch in stories, these are the things that get you in rooms. These are the things that get you connected right away with the interest of an audience. But that's not what we're here in this life to do. That's so black and white, and that has nothing to do with a human experience, because my understanding in my life experience has been to always look deep into the eternal ecosystem we have, all of us. I have inside of me the power to become a demon if I allow it. And it depends on my context, the way I grew up, the tools I had to heal, and the way I was told how to interact with the world. Um, and that could be compassion, and that is also, I think, active listening and radical empathy for one another. It's difficult to say these things where we are in a world that I now live in the States, and we're dealing with different kinds of wars, and I know that it's harder because it takes a lot more time to sit with the information and to kind of find the light in when we hear what people are capable of doing. But we should and we can, because that's what happened to me. So just to switch it up, what ended up happening is I stupidly had 3 credit cards in my bag. And just like any group of people, also in the kidnapping world, when you have 3 individuals trying to, you know, do something awful or like change the journey of someone's life, there's going to be mess. There's a mess, no matter how experts they were in their, attempts to do what they wanted to do. These are 3 individuals with 3 different minds, with 3 different stories. So when after I understood that that was happening, I think I didn't do it consciously. I think prayer helped a lot, internal prayer. And I don't know if you believe in the power of your ancestors. I can feel that you
I
do.
I do.
But
I just got chills.
yeah, but I called in, my grandfather. I called in everybody that I knew, and because they had my ID, the thing they used as a fearful strategy, which is they're talking to you with your name and your address, and they're giving you messages of fear of like, anything you do, we have your address, we're going to call your parents. And they start creating an environment inside that contained cab, where the purpose is for you not to move, and for them
And
to
terrify you.
terrify you, and for them to continue what they wanted to do. um but underneath all that, I flipped that, because they were talking to me with my 2 names. I have a first and middle name, which I don't use in the States, and I have 2 last names like you do in Mexico, and you use them all. And they were calling me with my names and my last names. And because of that, I used that to create intimacy, meaning I wanted to learn who they were too. And I started feeling energetically, because I still had the guns point, like I could feel it in the way, the pressure of the guns in my ribs, in the side of my ribs. And there was one, my right side was like the bad cop, the bad cop and the good cop, like the younger guy I had on my left side. Instinctively I was like, if anybody is going, if from the 3 gentlemen, the one I would have more connection, I think, is the younger soul here. Because I assumed he had less of that activity. So I started looking at his eyes and forcing him to look me at in my eyes, and try to bring into the cab his sister, his mom, his female friends, like trying to put, even if the voice was, if my voice was kind of muddled by the whole them trying to organize what they were doing. But I used what I was feeling that he was bringing, like his energy, his tension in that gun, and the way he handled, the way he took away my belongings, and the way he was talking to me, like the temper of his voice, um, even like his hands, the way his hands moved. He to me was the person who had a little more open door for me to make a connection. And the guy on my ride, which was the lead in this show, and the most aggressive one, I ended up matching his energy. So at the time where it was the last card, where we were stopping for the last ATM to get all the money, he couldn't get the money, so he thought I was lying. I was giving him the wrong PIN number. And when that happened, the thing that I've gained for like an hour already with the driver and the guy, I lost it because this guy thought that I was trying to be smart. And so I match his tension. I match his tension. And I don't know how I match his energy, his like aggressive energy. And I basically said the reason why he was not entering that PIN number the right way. And kind of gained his respect weirdly. So the next thing in their schedule was the horrible thing. And that's when I used comedy. At that time, I had already 2 hours of knowing these people and kind of more or less understanding their references, their ecosystem, their social status, trying to figure out what kind of shows they'd like, what kind of things they did. And I know that in Mexico City, La Virgen de Guadalupe is like huge. And religion is huge. And even kidnappers, there were kids that had to go to church. And I started talking to them about my mom having connections with, heaven, and trying to get them, like, I made them laugh by me trying to negotiate my way out of the next thing that they were doing with all of the things I was pitching to them. I was like pitching anything and trying to make the next trying to turn it upside down in the moment until I got the bad guy to laugh. And when he laughed, oh look, and when he laughed, he told me, he's like, well, you're something special, because like nobody has made me laugh in a while. So this is like, that's where I got the negotiation. So he was like, this is what we're gonna do now. And I stayed with that energy of like, great, we have a deal. And he's like, we're gonna drive, we're gonna put a blindfold, and we're gonna stay inside the car for 30 more minutes, and we're gonna drop you off in this remote thing. You're going to count to 10. If you do anything, we're going to be pointing at you. You're dead there, whatever. And I'm like, great. I mean, whatever. I mean, we've been 3 hours already. Like, of course. And I asked the universe to give me the fake temperament to sustain the story until I exit the car. And I'm here talking to you, So yeah.
I just I don't know, I felt it was almost like this intensity. I didn't realize it was 3 hours of, I mean, it's
It felt like
torture.
a lifetime.
I bet, but you know what impacts me the most, and I think that was what I was trying to say in the beginning, that I feel that most people would become bitter, sad, fearful, would become, it would literally destroy them. And you turned tragedy into comedy. I just, how did you, how did you make that shift? How did you, was it because you felt, you know, well, I might as well try this because, what, instead, why not beg them for your life? Why not, you know what I mean? Is, what was it within you that sort of told you to turn it into comedy? I mean, I just can't, I can't imagine it. I can't.
Yeah, I think that has nothing to do with me. That has all to do with my dad and the way I grew up. Um, I grew up in a town and at a time where um there were dangerous situations happening around us, and we were the bystanders of it all. Culiacán, Sinaloa is known for its narco culture. To me, and thanks to my parents, it is known for its beautiful sunsets and the most delicious seafood. So I grew up with the greatest parents that try their best to keep me alive and to keep me happy. And and my dad confronts life through laughter. I'm not saying that he's not afraid at times, and but I learned from him that to connect through that. I think that I saw him doing it. I saw how he, how he still deals with a lot of the ups and downs, and instinctively that tool was available to me.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing it. I think it takes a certain level of vulnerability to share a story like that. So thank you. I'm really grateful. Now, you've been part of some incredible, wonderful, just amazing drama series. And you've talked about how you use your personal experiences to bring out your characters' emotional truths. Has there been any particular role that has challenged you emotionally? Because channeling certain personal experiences can be, uh, I would feel like they could be very difficult. Has there been any one role that has really challenged you emotionally when you're sort of channeling into that? Um,
I just did a play called Poison by Lot Vekemans. This is a two-hander. It's just uh, my role and the male role. In the story is, do you remember Rabbit Hole? Remember that play? Like it deals with the loss of a kid, the loss of a child. My character went through um a young couple that the kid, the 5-year-old kid, is through a car accident, dies. And after that, the husband leaves her. And I don't know what that, I entered that role because I was offered that role. I wasn't offered that role. I auditioned for that role and I read the play, and it was one of those plays that it scared me because as you can see me, I'm not sure if your podcast is going to be also on, people are going to be able to see my mousy little face, but okay.
Mousy, it's a cute face.
I got a cute face, but and I got a cute face, but a lot of years in my soul. And in my short-lived or long-lived theatrical life, I've been very lucky to play roles, very young roles, usually younger than who I am. And so this play that I just mentioned, this role that I just did before the holidays, it gave me an opportunity to play a mature woman, a woman that I had to do a lot of research because of my choice. I never wanted to have kids, and I don't have kids, so I don't have that experience. Um, I don't know. I had to do a lot of research, and um it's a play that it required a lot of athletic performance because my character enters the play. It's a 3-act play, and you never leave this cemetery. So it's a conversation that these two individuals had after 8 years of not seeing each other at their son's cemetery. So a lot of tension amongst them, and a lot of the difficulty of connecting once again when there's so much regret, and when there's so much anger. And so it was very, very challenging and very satisfying to do it. Yeah.
Um, I keep I want to go back for a quick minute to something that we talked about early on, but I didn't touch up on it enough. You talk about radical empathy,
Mhm.
and we're talking about emotional truths, and I mentioned at the beginning that you actually hid this secret for 20 years. You didn't tell a soul.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I think, in my opinion, I'm an empathetic person. But when you talk about radical empathy, can you just share a little bit about what you mean by that? Because I know that um, I read something where um, you talked about, or maybe it was the TED Talk, but you talked about how you thought about your kidnappers after the fact, but you thought about them in a way that it was like, I wonder if they have families. I wonder if they're with their families. I wonder what happened to them. And and then, you get into radical empathy, and I think that's something that is not common. I think it's something that must be extremely challenging, but I do believe it's something we need more of. And I wouldn't want you to leave here without talking to us a little bit about radical empathy, because I think we're living in a world that is very complex. And I think maybe if we had more empathy, it might, I don't know, it might be easier to navigate um, some of the things that are happening. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. I learned the term through Tara Brock, I think. Um, and radical empathy to me is to stop and breathe. And it's the opposite of taking the first action. So, as human beings, when things hurt, we have uh, instinctive tools to, relate and get back to it. And all of them are great, are different kinds of reactions to things. But radical empathy takes that slow motion of receiving a hit, or when something in life comes at you that you feel like the rug is pulled from under you, like right before executing the next moment is to breathe. Simplicity of breathing sometimes we forget, because um shock, I'm no doctor, but I play one, but no shocking, your body basically stops exhaling. And if we go to the minutia of centering our focus in the action of breathing, there are different techniques. Um, I use my imagination a lot, and the more I dig in, like I'll give you a very like a stupid example, but I sometimes imagine like a little tiny little me standing in front of my nostrils, kind of like the gatekeeper of my nostrils, and just experiencing air coming in and just looking both sides. Imagine you standing and looking at the outside world, looking inside your body, and just experiencing all the air coming in, and like kind of learning the tempo, kind of like the wave. It really connects you to how the planet actually works if you let it happen. And when you connect to the tide of that tempo, then your communication will be a lot better and a lot more poignant and a lot more effective. Because if you do that and then filter your words through the question, and I learned that also through another mentor of mine, Michelle Ezrick, um, how would love say it? Like those two small and simple and easy tools can shift your whole reality.
Well, you know, everything you've shared with me has certainly shifted my reality. Um, I I've had my own traumatic experiences. Doesn't compare to you. Um, and I feel that it's absolutely changed me. Um, I feel for the better. Um, I think you have incredible sense of the world around you. I think, and I don't know you. Um, I feel that you are a hell of a strong lady. Um, and I love to see when someone turns, you know, to simplify it, a negative into a positive. And I'm so happy that you're here, that you're thriving, and that you're, on this beautiful healing journey, because it feels like you're still, and I think we're all still, growing and learning about ourselves, about the world around us. And we're healing on, on that same path. So thank you so much for sharing yourself and your story. I believe that it will help a lot of people. I think part of this journey has also been forgiveness for you. Am I right?
Oh, yes. Yes. And feeling my feelings, which I
I'm glad
did.
that you said that,
I think
because
that
isn't
I
it easy for us to sort of, something bad happens, we internalize, we hide it out of shame, out of guilt, out of all these things, but you've allowed yourself to sit in whatever the feelings were at whatever time and place, but you've allowed yourself to feel it
yeah,
and still move on.
absolutely. And relearning what it means to be strong, truly. Strong doesn't mean I thought I was told it's a posture. Being strong, it's an action. Being strong, it's um a lipstick. It's a color. It's a there's a lot of facades of being strong. And I've recently learned that me sharing this story with you without putting emphasis on who's the victim, who's not, and what is the purpose really, but allowing like sharing the story and just like releasing the hold of what this moment between us is supposed to do. I am learning that that is strong. I'm learning that strong has nothing to do with your credits. It has to do with the willingness to share yourself with someone else. And I'm learning that strong is also not controlling what you think is the best outcome of things. Control feels great when you can control if you order almond latte instead of oat latte. That's satisfying for a second. But I'm learning that in life, it's just, you need to, I learn to keep dancing the rhythm of whatever comes at you.
I love your attitude. Emma, you're a beautiful soul. One of the things that I love to do at the end of every interview is have our guests share a quote, a mantra, piece of advice. And there are millions of people walking around with a heavy heart, holding on to their version of a secret, an emotional truth, a trauma. What advice can you share to help him or her who's listening begin their own healing journey? And the journey is different for everyone, but maybe something you can leave us with that um, can just, sort of spark that little light inside of someone who right now may be in a lot of pain.
Secrets can harm you and poison you if you can find a secure or connection, an intimate connection with someone you love to share your truth with, do it. Find a way to do it. Do it now. Don't do it on Friday when it's better, when you have the right clothes to do it. Don't do it when the other person maybe has time for it. Do it right now. Do not, your body, we're given these bodies that are so precious, and at the same time they get sick when we don't pay attention to our thoughts. And when you share with someone, you are going to find a way to heal.
Mm. Emma, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a light. Please share with our listeners how they can learn more about you and your upcoming film. Give us all the details.
Yes, of course. I'm very grateful to be here with you talking today. I usually post everything I'm doing or I'm thinking or I'm feeling through my Instagram, which is I am Emma Ramos, EMMARAMOS. Um, and my website, emmaramos.com, also has a couple of shorts of and the TED Talk you're mentioning, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do it in English, to be of service to my new
Yes, please.
adult community because I'm now an American. So, but yeah, as long as I'm breathing, uh, I'll be here. You can connect with me.
Well, thank you for connecting with me today. You made an impact for sure. So thank you.
You made an
Thank you for joining us on this new episode of AW Confidential. I will speak to you soon.